Okay, now I share the screen. Okay, so we can begin. We'll do 3 bows to the Buddha, even mental bows. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll do the salutation. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened one. So, good morning, everybody. And today is September 20th, 2025. So, we're continuing to read the Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses, and we're in the Book of Sevens. And we'll now be looking at Sutta number 52, which is a sutta on dana, on the practice of giving. And so it starts off with a group of lay followers from Champa. Champa is probably someplace to the northeast of India. So Sariputta brings a group of these lay followers to the Buddha, and then Sariputta sort of is going to sort of create the opportunity for the Buddha to give a discourse. So he presents the Buddha with a question. So could it be the case that a gift given by someone here is not of great fruit and benefit? And could it be the case that a gift given by someone is of great fruit and benefit? And so now the Buddha is going to explain 7 types of giving or 7 motivations for giving. And this will be presumably in a sequence of increasing fruit and benefit. The acts of giving become successively more fruitful and beneficial. And I've sometimes explained that from the standpoint of the early Buddhist texts, we can distinguish 3 types of giving, which are actually made explicit, I think, in an Abhidharma commentary, not of the Theravada school, but of the Sarvastivada school. It's the Mahavibhasha. Abhidharma Mahavibhasha distinguish, I think, 3 fields of giving. So it speaks about the field of, I think it's the Gaharava, the field of giving based on respect or reverence, the field of giving based on compassion, and the field of giving based on gratitude. So the field of giving based on respect or reverence are gifts which are given to samana and brahmanas, that is, to ascetics and brahmins, in other words, to renunciants, in order to support them in living the spiritual life. And I'll come back to this. Then the field of giving based on compassion is giving to the needy, to the poor, the needy, those who need help and support from others. And then the field of giving based on gratitude would be giving as a way, as an expression of gratitude towards those who have been one's benefactors. It could be one's parents, teachers, elder benefactors. So anyone who has benefited you in the course of your life, and then you want to express your gratitude to them, and so you give them a gift as a way of expressing that gratitude. So those are the 3 fields of giving. And it seems that the type of giving that will be discussed here is the giving that's the expression of reverence, giving to those in the field of reverence. And in the in the organization of Indian society in this particular period, this type of giving was extremely important. Here in the modern West, it doesn't seem to figure very prominently because we always think of giving as an expression of charity, of giving to the needy. Because say, in the Christian churches, probably the Jewish synagogues, Islamic structure, I don't know so well, but say in the Christian church, the Christian ministers will get a salary from the church, and the Catholic priests will also get a salary. And so they're maintained by the organization. So it's not so essential that they receive gifts from the congregation. Though actually, I believe the congregation does contribute to the church, and then the church provides the charity. But in ancient Indian culture, there was a fairly large community of those who have given up or renounced the household life. They give up their caste status and they take on the life of being the pabajita, the renunciants, or the paribhajika, the wanderers, or the samana, the ascetics. And so they leave behind all means of supporting themselves, all types of remunerative occupations, and they throw themselves entirely upon the support of the householders, living by faith. So that's an act of going forth out of faith, faith that when one devotes oneself to the spiritual quest, there's going to be the community of householders who will support one with gifts. And ideally, the renunciants should expect to receive only the basic requisites of life. So in the Buddhist text, these are summarized in terms of the 4 types of requisites. So we have the chivara, the clothes or the robes, which usually a robe can last 3 or 4, even 5, 6 years. The alms food, which is the most essential thing, because the alms food will last only through the course of the meal. So that's an item that has to be renewed every day. The third is a dwelling place. And of course, that would be like a structure, like a monastery, a temple, a cottage, a kuti. And that will last, decades, or even could last hundreds of years. And then there's the medicinal requisites, which become especially relevant in times of sickness. But they also, under medicinal requisites, also includes things like refreshments, maybe like vitamins, minerals, things like teas, beverages, and various other supports. Of course, nowadays one needs various other things like, well, those of us with fading eyesight need eyeglasses. When the hearing gets weak, one might need hearing aids. Probably these will come under the category of medicinal requisites. And then everybody needs a cell phone, computer, other electronic equipment. And so the range of things that are needed has expanded. Okay, so those are the types of gifts which are considered the essentials of the renunciant life. And so I think the sutta here, when it speaks about gifts being of great fruit and benefit, it's speaking about gifts that are made out of faith to those who come into the field of reverence, to ascetics and Brahmins. And by Brahmins here would be the renunciant Brahmins, not the Brahmins who are living the household life. Okay, so here we have the first, and we're going to see that there's to some extent that there is a sequence being laid out in the sutta of an ascending, let's say, an ascending quality, an ascending level of virtue in the giving of these gifts. And so here the sutta or the sequence begins with someone who gives a gift with expectations or with desires, giving the gift with a mind which is intent on the reward, the payback for the gift. So he gives the gift thinking, having passed away, I will make use of this, or this gift will be of benefit to me. And so he gives the gift to an ascetic or a Brahmin. So here we have food and drink, clothing and vehicles, garlands, scents and unguents, bedding, dwellings, and lighting. Okay, so then the Buddha says that when one gives a gift with expectations, with a bound mind, so the mind is bound, it's attached, so it's limited and attached. It's looking for rewards because one wants to receive some benefit in return for the gift. So then the text says, with the breakup of the body after death, one is reborn in companionship with the devas, ruled by the four great kings. So in the Buddhist cosmology, there are six desire realm heavenly planes, which are situated above the human realm, but they're still within the desire realm. And the lowest of these is called the heaven of the four great kings. Who are the four great kings? I don't know the names. One of them is Vaisavana, who we'll meet in the following sutta. So these are the kings that rule, the divine kings that rule over one of the heavens is populated by the yakshas, another by the nagas, a third by the Gandhabas or Gandharvas, the celestial musicians, and then a fourth by the Kumbhandas, rather strange type of being. Okay, so with the breakup of the body, one is reborn in that heavenly realm, and then one exhausts the merit, the meritorious karma in that realm. And then after passing away, one comes back and returns to this realm of existence. Okay, so that is the lowest type of giving. Okay, now comes the second type of giving. So one doesn't give the gift thinking that having passed away, I will make use of this, I will get this particular benefit of that giving, but rather one gives the gift thinking giving is good. So this is by hearsay. Maybe one is trained by one's parents, the family, the community, to believe that it's good to give, and so one gives a gift with that intention. I remember, I think all of these, I think I should have included more of the text. Yeah, even the Pali text is abbreviated. But I think the sense, what the passage that's abbreviated is that through the power of that gift, one is going to be reborn in one of the heavenly worlds. And when that merit is exhausted, one comes back to this world. So that is the second motivation for giving. Simply out of hearsay, out of one's training, one is led to believe that giving is good. And so in that case, one gives a gift. Okay, the third case, one gives a gift thinking that giving was practiced by my parents, my grandparents. And so this is an ancient family custom. And this is actually a tradition in Indian culture, even in Sri Lankan culture, so that there's a family has been supporting a particular monastery, and the support for that monastery might go back generations. So your great grandparents supported that monastery, your grandparents supported it, your parents supported it. And so when you reach maturity, then you take it to be your obligation to support that monastery. And so you do it in order to continue that family custom. Okay, the fourth motivation for giving is that it's not, the motivation is not so clear, but the thought is that the person reflects that I cook, so I prepare food, whereas these, that is the ascetics, the renunciants, do not cook. It isn't right that I, one who cooks, prepares meals, shouldn't give to those who do not cook. I guess the idea here is that one reflects that these renunciants are dependent upon my gifts for their subsistence. And so, since I am accumulating food, I have a refrigerator full of food and I cook the food. So, when they come walking on alms round, I should support them. And so, this becomes a kind of customary practice in many traditional Buddhist countries. For example, in Thailand, like every day, devout Buddhist families, early in the morning, they set up a little table outside their homes and they'll have a pot of rice, some pots with some other dishes. Often the curries will be tied up in little bundles. They used to use banana leaves. Now, sadly, they use little plastic bags. And so when the monastics come by, then they'll put a spoon of rice into the alms bowl and one of these little bags with some curries or with fruits, with additional dishes. Okay, the fifth motivation for giving, I guess this would be particularly relevant to those in Indian culture where there's a Vedic heritage. So it gives what uses a reflection, just as the rishis, the ancient rishis, and here it mentions some of the ancient rishis from the Vedic period, held these great sacrifices, so I will share a gift. And so in this way, one wants to emulate by the practice of giving the great sacrifices that have been performed by the ancient rishis. Okay, now we come to the sixth type of giving, or sixth motivation for giving. So one doesn't give a gift with the other motivations, but rather one gives a gift thinking, when I am giving a gift, my mind becomes placid, becomes calm and peaceful, and then elation and joy arise. I think probably for most Buddhists, this is one of the main motivations for giving, or at least it's one of the experiences that one undergoes when one practices generosity. Because there's this innate tendency to sort of hold on to one's possessions, to cling to one's wealth and one's accumulated possessions. But then when one practices giving, one finds that, especially when one gives out of faith and devotion to the monastic community, the mind settles down and becomes calm. And when one reflects on the act of giving, then piti and sukha, joy and delight, or somanassa, arise. And that uplifts the mind. And then we come to the seventh motivation for giving. So one doesn't give a gift thinking that when I give a gift, my mind becomes placid and elation and joy arise, but rather one gives a gift thinking that this is an ornament of the mind, an accessory of the mind. And so with that motivation, one gives a gift to an ascetic or a Brahmin, food, drink, clothing and vehicles, garlands, scents and unguents, bedding, dwelling, and lighting. Okay, and then the text tells us, hey, this is an important point. So when one gives a gift thinking it's an ornament of the mind, an accessory of the mind, having given such a gift with the breakup of the body, after death, one is reborn in companionship with the devas of Brahma's company. In other words, one is reborn not in one of the lower desire realm heavenly worlds, but one is reborn in the Brahma world. And then it said, having exhausted that karma, that psychic power, the glory and authority, one does not come back and return to the state of being. So this is apparently it's describing the act of giving of a anagami, a non-returner. And that would be the reason why a gift by someone here is of great fruit and benefit. And the commentary has something that illuminates the meaning of these types of gifts. I just pasted in the commentary in Pali, but I'll translate it. Okay, so the commentary says that it's not possible to be reborn in the Brahma world just by the power of giving. So the power of giving itself, the power of dana, is not a sufficient cause for being reborn in the Brahma world. Giving, if it's accompanied by other good qualities like observance of precepts, by a mind that has generated kindness and compassion, then when giving takes over the role of generating rebirth, it can produce rebirth in the lower heavenly worlds or back into the human realm. But its power on its own is confined to the desire realm, the kama loka. Okay, but the commentary says, in regard to the seventh type of gift, that this gift is an adornment for the mind of samatha and vipassana. That is, it's one who has been cultivating calm and insight meditation and presumably has the jhanas, then practices giving. And so the giving becomes an adornment to a mind which has been solidly established in samatha or samadhi, concentration, and in vipassana, panya or wisdom. And so therefore, it says that with that mind which has been adorned by giving, one develops jhana and the Aryan Magga, the noble path, and then one is reborn there in the Brahma world through the force or power of the jhana. And so the necessary condition for rebirth, even in the Brahma world, is the attainment of at least the first jhana. But now it's said that the person who's reborn there does not come back from that world. So this is not somebody just an ordinary meditator who develops the jhanas, but it will be somebody who has also developed to some extent the Arya Magga, the noble path. And so it describes this person. The text uses the phrase anagami hoti, that he is a non-returner who does not come back to this state of being. And so the commentary calls this person a jhana anagami. That is, he's a non-returner through the power of jhana. And so it's said that so that person who's reborn in the Brahma world either is reborn in a still higher realm within the Brahma world, or is reborn in that same state in the Brahma world and attains final liberation, final nibbana right there. So this is the act of giving, we could say, of somebody who has acquired the jhanas and has developed the noble path, presumably at least to the level of being a stream enterer. So through the power of jhana, one is reborn in the Brahma world, and because one is at least a stream enterer in the Brahma world, one can go on developing insight to the point of becoming a non-returner, or even to the level of arhatship. And so one then will attain final liberation there without coming back into this human realm. And then the commentary gives ways. Are you able to see that? Maybe you're not able to see this. I think I have to expand the sharing. Okay. So then the commentary has a way of describing these 7 types of giving. Is my commentary passage visible to you?
Yes, Bhante, we can see it.
Okay. So it says amongst these 7 types of giving. So the first is said to be giving, which gives prominence to craving, because one is craving for a result to enjoy the fruits of one's giving. And so it's a kind of almost like an exchange deal, like a transactional type of giving. One gives expecting to acquire merit for the purpose of being reborn in the heavenly world. So the second, so this is giving where you hear giving is good. And so this is giving, it says giving, which is based on respect or reverence. The third is, this is the giving where one wants to maintain the family tradition. And it said this is giving based on hiri and otapa, giving based on a sense of moral shame and moral dread. Maybe the connection, maybe not so clear to me, but maybe we could say that one feels sort of obliged to continue that family tradition, and one would feel shame if one were to discontinue it. Or maybe other relatives will criticize you if you don't continue that family tradition. And someone gives in order to continue the family tradition. Okay, the fourth, I don't quite understand the meaning of this. It just says, is giving without any remainder. So this is a case of giving because you think that um, I cook, they do not cook. It's not right that I should not give to those who don't cook. I don't understand the meaning of the commentary here. Okay, the fifth, which is giving because one recollects that the ancient rishis held these great sacrifices, so I too should practice giving. So this is said to be giving to those worthy of offerings. Again, the meaning not so clear. Okay, the sixth is giving because the mind becomes calm and full of joy. And so this is described as the giving, which gives prominence to joy. And then the seventh is said to be the gift, which is an adornment and equipment of the mind. Okay, so those are the seven types of giving. And then the Buddha just concludes by saying that is the reason why a gift given by someone here is not of great fruit and benefit, and why the gift given by someone else is of great fruit and benefit. And so we could see to some extent that there's a sequence of motivations behind this act of giving. And it's as we go through the series, the later gifts are of greater fruit and benefit than the preceding gifts. Okay, maybe we could see whether there's any questions that arise from this passage. Um, okay, so let's go in sequence. So we'll start with Vandana.
Thank you, Bhante, for your teachings. I have a question about when you said Anagami is reborn in the Brahma in the company of the Brahmas, and then he attained nirvana from there. But what about the Brahma himself? Does he also guess nirvana, or he just stays and for so many years, and then what do they do?
What about the Brahma himself?
Yeah, yeah. Would
Okay.
Brahma attain nirvana or not?
Okay. 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 I have to speak about things that lie beyond my own range of direct observation. Okay, so in the Brahma world, it said that there are three levels in the Brahma world. So there's the realm of Okay, Brahma Parisajja, Brahma Purohita, and Mahabrahma. Okay, the Brahma Parisajja, that is the lowest level, and that is the realm of the assembly of Brahmas. So these are the general assembly of beings in the Brahma world. The next level are the ministers of Brahma. Maybe this is like, we could say that the assembly of Brahma will be like the general voting population of the United States. Okay, the Brahma Purohita, maybe we could say this is like the cabinet members of Brahma. And then the Mahabrahma, though it seems the third level, it's not just one person, at least from the Buddhist perspective, but this is inhabited by many Mahabrahmas, but they are the most powerful. Okay, so I think that those who are reborn in the Brahma world can be reborn there at any of these three levels. And at any of those three levels, they can be anagamis who will attain final nibbana from that realm. Yeah, now there's a certain tension in the Buddhist cosmology because sometimes the Buddhist texts speak about one of the beings in the Brahma world as being the Mahabrahma, as though he's like the president or king of that realm. And he is depicted as a being who has delusions, who thinks he is the greatest, the foremost, the creator of the universe. Though the Buddha then exposes that delusion and shows that that being is subject to delusion, still caught up in the bondage of ignorance. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would just have to say that, when you take the Buddhist cosmology itself with the three levels, so the beings at any of those three levels in the Brahma world can be non-returners who will attain final liberation there.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't know anything about what happens to the Brahma.
I didn't hear you clearly.
I'm saying so we don't know anything about what happens to the Brahmas themselves. Brahmas, they just reborn, or they because they're not anagamis, right? Brahmas
Well,
themselves.
some can be anagamis, some of the beings in the Brahma world, others will not be anagamis.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay. Okay, Gita?
Thank you, Bante, for all your teaching. Very, very sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very, very grateful. Bante, I have a question. What if you give in that seventh category of not expecting anything in return, but in the process of giving, before the giving, while
Yeah, I'm
giving,
having
and
some trouble with the sound. But can you make the volume? Okay.
can you hear me, Bante?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think it's better now.
Okay. So I'm talking about the seventh category.
Okay, go on.
Seventh category of giving. So if you give with absolutely no expectations and you take joy and a delight in the process of giving, beginning, middle, and end, and if you dedicate those merits towards your own awakening to Nibbana, does this lead to developing the paramis? I'm like that, like so that it helps you to awaken in the path and the fruits.
Yeah, definitely. I say, in fact, that is the highest type of giving where you
Oh,
give
excellent.
without any attachment to the
Yes.
result. You give purely, if it's a gift given to the renunciants, you give
Mm-hmm.
purely with reverence. If
Mm-hmm.
it's a gift given to the poor and needy, you give purely out of compassion. You have
Mm-hmm.
no attachment to the results, and you develop a mind of joy
Mm-hmm.
before giving, sort of
While giving.
anticipating the act of giving. While giving, you maintain that mind of joy. Then after giving, you reflect on it and you generate joy. And then you can dedicate the merit to your enlightenment.
Nibbana.
Yeah, that becomes then the act of giving becomes the dana parami, the act of the perfection of giving.
Excellent, Bante. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sadhu.
Okay, Kilaya.
Thank you, Bhante. It brings up a couple of questions, one of which is the question of the ellipses in the Pali Suttas when there is the one phrase or passage just stops and there's a couple of dots.
Yeah,
I was wondering if that always means like a repeat, like the expression ibid in academic papers, just
yeah,
a repeat of what came before.
yeah. Yeah, normally that would be the case, but I find it a bit puzzling here because I would have expected something additional. If my hypothesis is correct that we have an ascending sequence in the value or the merit of the act of giving as we go from one to the other, one would expect something different to be said in the case of each of those intermediate types of giving. But the Pali text just uses the three dots.
Could we interpret that as just saying that all of these cases are reborn with the four kings, but understanding that you can be reborn in that realm with different qualities, different characteristics depending on your karma? In other
That would
words, you can be more attractive, more wealthy, have more power in these realms.
that would seem to be entailed, but I would have expected to see a difference as one goes from stage one to stage two to stage three, perhaps rebirth in a different heavenly realm. Because I have to say, I mean, personally, I don't want to be reborn in the heaven of the four great kings. I don't find any of those life forms there to be especially attractive. And even the Tavatingsa Deva world, which is the realm of Sakra, the king of the gods, it seems to be a realm just of sensual pleasures, elevated sensual pleasures. And then the next heavenly realm is the realm of Yama, the Yama Deva world. And almost nothing is said about that in the Buddhist text. It's almost like a blank. So the one that seems to be the real desirable target is the Tusita Deva world, because that is a realm where Maitreya, the Bodhisattva Maitreya, is now presiding over at least part of that realm. And that is the realm, it's said, where the great practitioners are reborn. And so in the Tusita world, you get to hear the Dharma, to practice the Dharma. So that would be the desirable realm, but very little is said in the text about how you get to be reborn there. But it's said that Anathapindika is reborn in the Tusita world and some of the other great supporters of the Buddha.
It makes a good motivation to become a non-returner then, no?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll just move on. So Namki.
Thank you, Bante, for your teaching. So my understanding from Diamond Sutra in my Mahayana tradition,
Yeah.
so when you are giving, I mean, Bante, you mentioned no attachment in giving, but also my understanding is not dwelling even in the, any thoughts of giving itself. So when I just saw the text here, you are thinking this and thinking that, and I was a little bit kind of confused, and I want to hear your interpretation of that. Thank you.
Yeah. So the Diamond Sutra is explaining the mode of giving of a bodhisattva who doesn't, as the sort of insight, a very, very highly developed insight into anatta, or non-self or shunyata or emptiness. So the bodhisattva gives as a practice of a paramita to make that act of giving a paramita. So the bodhisattva's act of giving doesn't grasp upon the perception or the idea of a being who is a giver and the being who is a recipient of the gift or an item that is giving. Of course, at the conventional level, one has to see that one is giving to people who are receiving the gift and one is giving particular items, but one doesn't cling to those ideas that I am giving something to others. So that's a kind of giving without dwelling, a giving without attachment. So that becomes the perfection of giving, the paramita of giving. But the earliest stages of giving are still giving, at a lower level where there's the idea of I'm giving to somebody a gift and with the intention of generating the merits.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we come to Kevin.
Thank you, Bante. Thank you for your teaching. I'm not quite clear on this highest form of giving. I'm wondering if you could explain a little further what is meant when it says that a gift is an ornament of the mind, an accessory of the mind.
Yeah, I have to say that the sutta itself doesn't really explain this in any detail, but it seems this is my hypothesis from the fact that this person is said to be reborn in the Brahma world and doesn't come back to this world. So following up on the commentary, so this is a person who has developed samatha and vipassana, calm and insight. And so they practice giving as a kind of without any attachment. And so that act of giving further adorns the mind that becomes a kind of spontaneous expression of generosity. And in that way, I would say that it's the quality of generosity from which the act of giving originates that adorns the mind. Yeah, that would be my interpretation.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, then we have V.
Yes, good morning, Bante. Sorry, last week my microphone doesn't work. Basically, I just want to ask regarding the sound. There was a book by Ajahn Someho about the silence of the sound, and I think I've written to you, but I didn't get a reply. It's regarding when one meditate, sometimes one get into the stage where it's very quiet and it get into emptiness, or it's it's a sound of silence. So I just want to ask Bante, what is that stage?
Yeah, I've heard Ajahn Sumedho use that expression, the sound of silence. I don't have experience with that kind of meditation, so I can't really answer it.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, I think I'll write to him directly.
Yeah,
The other question,
but
yes.
he's 90 years old, so I don't know whether you'll get a reply.
Okay, yeah. The other question I have is on the heaven of the four great kings.
Yeah.
Wonder any of your peers, or you can divulge anything of that. Have anybody actually saw the four great kings, especially at the Yaka world?
Has anybody what?
Any of your peers, that means any of the monks in any of your friends
Yeah.
in the Sangha, actually went to the Yaka, one of the world of the
Have any of them gone to the Yucca world?
yes, any of them, and then they come back, or can you
No,
divulge
I don't know anybody who's gone there.
Right, okay. And the other question is that on the Tusita heaven, we knew that the Xuan Chang, before he died, he said
Yeah.
that he will be in Tusita heaven. And I think Queen Malika as well in Tusita heaven. I just wonder, I mean, at the first stage, the first batch will be the Indians, right? That go to the Sita heaven. Then you have probably when the Buddhism enter into China, then you have the more Chinese that get into the Sita heaven, and now probably more international
Yeah.
group. Is that going to be the case? Or I mean,
I think if you get reborn in the Tusita heaven, one loses one's ethnic identity. And they all just become pretty uniform residents of the Tusita heaven. I don't think that there'll be separate neighborhoods in the Tusita heaven for people of Chinese ethnicity, others of Indian ethnicity.
Yeah, but I think a Mahayana nun or monk actually told me that there is this inner circle or maitreya, so and that the outer circle there shouldn't be, right? Because it will be quite uniform if that's the case. That is there any female or male or just
Is there
it's
any
just
what?
female or male, or it just basically there's no sex
I
in the
think that in the sense sphere heavenly worlds, I think that there is sexual differentiation, but the beings, I mean, this is going beyond my own personal experience, but the beings there don't reproduce through sexual union.
Okay, right. Okay,
Maybe we
thank you.
should keep questions to things like sort of come more within my own personal sphere of experience. Okay, Doran.
Thank you, Bante. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Thank you for your gift to us, this gift, which reminded me, I heard a long time ago a talk by Thich Nhat Hanh, where he talked about a different classification. It was really beautiful and stuck in my mind of three kinds of gifts. And he, I think, attributed this to Avalokiteshvara. And he said the first kind is material gifts. The second kind is the gift of the know-how, like education, like what you're giving us right now. And the third kind, which is what my question is about, is the gift of no fear,
Yeah.
the gift of fearlessness. And
Yeah.
I'm curious whether that comes from the Buddha, or is that a later interpretation? Did the Buddha ever talk about the gift of no fear?
Yeah, we find actually in the Anguttara Nikaya Book of Twos, there's distinction of two kinds of gifts. There's the Amisadana and Dhammadana. So the Amisadana is the gift of material things. So that would be giving food, clothing, shelter, or in modern terms, giving gifts of money, financial support. And then the second is the gift of the Dhamma. So that is, I think, what Thich Nhat Hanh means by the gift of education. So that is the instruction in the Dhamma. The third type of gift, I don't recall in the suttas a scheme of three types of giving, but we could say that we could recognize abhayadana as a valid type of giving. That means the gift of fearlessness. So that would be giving protection, shelter, or refuge to those who are in some kind of danger, trouble, attack.
And it's called abhayadana. Thank you for that word. I guess I can do a word search on that now and see where it appears.
Yeah, it's a bhaya, a B-H-A-Y-A.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, I had another sutta that I was going to discuss today. I'm just going to jump through it quickly, really quickly. Okay, so this is a sutta which features a female lay disciple by the name of Nandamata, which means the mother of Nanda. So she's known by the name of her son. And she's chanting the Parayana. The Parayana is a collection, it's a very beautiful collection of suttas, which is now included in the Pali tradition, is included in the Sutta Nipata, the last chapter of the Sutta Nipata. And the word parayana means para is the far shore or the beyond, and ayana is a way, a path. So it's the way to the far shore, the way to the beyond. And apparently she would have known this collection by memory. It's a collection of 16 chapters within the Parayana, in which in each chapter a young Brahmin renunciant asks the Buddha a set of questions in verse, and the Buddha replies in verse. And she's reciting this collection.
Sorry, Bante, can't see the screen.
Oh, yeah, I have to go back and okay, do you see the sutta text now?
Yep, got it. Thank you.
So she's reciting this, and while she's reciting, one of those four great kings, his name is Vaisavana. I think he's the king that presides over the Yaka realm, is traveling by, and he hears her reciting, and he praises her and says, "Excellent, excellent sister." And then she asks, "Who is that?" And he says, "I am your brother, the Deva king Vaisavana." And he asks her to offer the merits of her recitation to him, and she agrees to do so. Okay, I'm sort of going to jump quickly through the sutta. Okay, now the next day, he informs her that the next day, Sariputta and Moggallana are going to be coming to this neighborhood. And so she has now the opportunity to invite Sariputta, Moggallana, and their disciples to come to her house for the meal for the day. And she does so when she serves the Sariputta, Moggallana, and the Sangha with the food that she's prepared. And then Sariputta asks her, "Who told you that the Sangha was going to be coming to this area today?" And she reports that it was the Deva king Vaisavana who told me this. And then she says, "Whatever merit I may have gained by this act of giving, let this merit be dedicated to the Deva king Vaisavana." So then Sariputta praises her because she has this ability to communicate with the Devas. You see, I don't have that ability, so you can't praise me. You can't ask me questions about conversations that I've had with the Devas. Okay, but now she's going to go on to enumerate 7 wonderful and amazing qualities that she has. The second one, and this is what I found a bit problematic from my point of view. She says that she had only one son, and this was the boy named Nanda. That's why she's named Nandamata, the mother of Nanda. And for some reason, the rulers seized and abducted him on some pretext and then executed him. Wow, it sounds like something sadly that could be happening in maybe today in some Central American country, maybe Guatemala or Honduras, El Salvador, some Middle Eastern country, where they abduct a person and then execute him. In this country now, they're abducting people and deporting them to countries where they might be imprisoned or executed. Okay, but when her son was arrested and when he was put in prison and when he was executed, she says, "I don't recall any alteration of my mind, any change, any kind of emotional change in my mind." And I find that somewhat problematic to hold that up as a kind of Buddhist ideal. Maybe I say I'm a bad Buddhist here, since if I hear, say, of a child or a young person who has been abducted, imprisoned, and executed, even if that person is not related to me, I would feel some kind of sadness in my mind. And I would think, when I have to give the talks to people who have lost beloved relatives, what I don't say you should be completely equanimous. It's all impermanent. Just accept this with complete indifference. What I say is that, yeah, you've lost a loved one. So it's quite normal and natural for you to feel sorrow and grief. I say, let yourself feel that sorrow and grief. Experience it, but experience it with mindfulness. Be aware that you're experiencing sorrow and grief over your loved one, and also apply the wisdom of impermanence. We reflect every day, or we should reflect regularly. One of the themes the Buddha gives for reflection is Sabbehi me piyehi mana pehi nana bhavo vina bhavo bhavisati. That there must be parting and separation from everyone who is dear and beloved to ourselves. And so we have that theme for reflection. And so when we actually lose a loved one, we can apply that to be able to accept the loss of the loved one, so we could experience the sorrow and grief. We do it with mindfulness, but we also do so with the recognition that this is the way of life, and that life is unpredictable. We don't know when we're going to die. We don't know when our loved ones are going to die. And so when we lose them, then it will be natural for us to experience sorrow over the loss. But we could do it by applying mindfulness and wisdom. We can, while experiencing the grief, allowing ourselves to experience the grief, we can emerge from that grief without being permanently pulled down into states of depression, dejection, sense of hopelessness. Yeah, so that's my take on this particular theme. Okay, some of the other ones, similar thing with the loss of her husband. Okay, so when she married young and she didn't transgress against her husband even in thought, so observing the precepts perfectly. Again, the fifth quality, she doesn't recall ever intentionally transgressing any of the precepts. Then we come to the sixth one. So here we come to things that are truly wondrous and amazing, that she is able to enter and dwell in the four jhanas. And so the four jhanas are not the preserve exclusively of monastics. So here we have a lay disciple who has access or mastery over the four jhanas. And then the seventh wondrous quality is, she says that of the five lower fetters taught by the Blessed One, by the Buddha, I don't see any that I have not abandoned. In other words, she's abandoned the five lower fetters, and so that makes her a non-returner. So she's a non-returner with mastery over the four jhanas. Okay, I won't be able to take any questions on the sutta because we're going to have to wrap up the class, so I'll have to go up for the meal. And so now we'll end with the sharing or dedication of the merits. And so we're going to share the merits with the Dhamma protecting devas, inviting them to rejoice in our merits and then to protect the true Dhamma in the world. So I'll recite in Pali. Akasa ta cha bhuma ta Devanaga Mahidika Punyanta Manumoditva Chirangra Kantu Sasanang Akasa Tacha Bhumata Devanaga Mahidika Punyanta Manumoditva Chirangra Kantu Desanang Akasa Tacha Bhumata Devanaga Mahidika Punyanta Manumoditva Chirangra Kantu Mang Parang Dukha Patachani Dukha Baya Patachani Baya Soka Patachani Soka Antu Sabe Pipanino. May those in suffering be free from suffering. May those in fear be free from fear. May those in sorrow be free from sorrow. May all living beings also be thus. And then we'll be doing 3 bows to the Buddha. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have this habit of always looking at the computer screen and asking anybody online have questions. I don't look out at the class. I have to apologize. Next week, I'll make sure to look out at the class. Okay, okay. Okay, so we'll be doing 3 bows to the Buddha.
Okay, bow to Bante.
Okay, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bante.
Bow to Bante Bodhi. Thank you, Bante.
Thank you,
Bante.
Bante.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bante.
Thank
Thiruvan
you,
Sarnai.
Bante.
Namo Buddhaya.
Many
Thank
blessings,
you,
Okay,
Bante.
thank
Thank you,
you.
Bante. Good to see you again.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bante.
Bante.
Okay, thank
Well
you.
done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sadhu,
Good
Be
to
Good to
see
sadhu.
safe
see
and well,
everyone.
Bante. Take care of your health.
Okay, let's stop the
Yes, thank you.
recording.
Thank you very much,
Bante.
Bante.